I used to do a summer youth theater program a couple of miles from my house. It was a small local theater that used to be a church before the congregation outgrew the building and built a new one across town. The building is well over 100 years old and was very well known for having a ghost named George who resided there. The rumor among all the kids was that George killed himself there jumping off the balcony. But in reality, he was just the final people to have a funeral there before the church closed, or so the story goes. George was well known among the theater staff and actors. Props would move mysteriously, chains in the prop room would rattle with no one around, and several managers reported George throwing books near them whenever they stayed too late. Pretty bring stuff. I was 13 at the time and had biked to the theater. The program started at around 9 a.m. and I arrived around anywhere from 8:30 to 8:45. The door was unlocked, but the lights in the lobby were off. Weird, I thought. Maybe the manager hasn't gotten it to it yet. So I wheeled my bike inside and parked it in the lobby. This was normal for those of us who biked there. There wasn't a place outside for us to lock our bikes, and headed into the pitch black house to take my seat. I was sitting about halfway in the house on an aisle seat in near darkness. The house was illuminated by the lobby windows filtering in from the stairs behind me that came to a very dim automatic nightlight. I could make out the seats and barely make out the stage and the balcony. It is then that I felt like I've been blasted by cold air. It was a warm summer morning, and while the theater had pretty decent AC, I was nowhere near a vent. With goosebumps on my arms, I looked at the stage and saw a silver, misty, slimmer size of a man hovering above the balcony. And then the house lights turned on, and whatever I had seen vanished along with the icy cold chill. The manager looked up from around the stairs, after seeing me, and asked, "Is that your bike in the lobby?" "Yes." "How did you get in there?" I thought I was in trouble, so I nervously answered with the truth. The door was unlocked, so I brought it inside. And the woman's face fell. She held up the keys and said, "I just unlocked the door." I guess George didn't want to leave a kid sitting outside alone, so he let me in. This was the only experience I have ever had with George, and ghosts in general, but it's been burned into my mind ever since. The theater has now outgrown the old building and moved into a new one downtown. I still wonder what's become of George and hope he's not lonely. For those curious, the theater is called Lakeshore Players and is a well-documented haunted spot in Minnesota. My mother can often fall asleep without the TV on, and my father is the complete opposite. This usually leads to my mom drifting off in the living room where the TV is. On this particular night, she had dozed off for a rather long time and was awakened at around 3 a.m. by a few sharp knocks at the front door. The front door in their house has a glass-covered opening about the same size of a paperback book. This means that if it's at night and any lights are on inside the house, whoever is outside can see you first. So unless the porch lights happens to be on, a visitor would always see you first. Afraid to even look who was outside at this odd hour, my mom ducked under the door and snuck back into their bedroom and woke my father up, groggy as hell, and also trying to decipher my mom's panic whispering. He made his way to the door, flicked on the porch light, and looked through the small glass opening and saw no one. He decided to open the door and take a quick glance around the house. But before he could step out, he noticed two wet and muddy footprints facing the door. The porch is big enough where there should have been other sets of prints leading up to the door, but there was no trace. It also hadn't rained in quite some time, and there was no large bodies of water around this neighborhood other than my parents' backyard pool. Later on, during a typical driveway discussion, My parents' neighbors also said that they had occasionally received mysterious loud knocks on their door late at night, describing the same wet footprints when they opened their door. For as long as I can remember, those neighbors have always had strange happenings to them regarding doorbell rings late at night, phone calls, etc. But first time it stretched over to my parents' house. I also hate that opening on the door in my parents' place. I've been telling them to get a new door for ages.